Hi and welcome to the first section of this course, Up and Running with Drupal 8. In this section we will kick off with an introduction to getting a Drupal 8 site installed and running. We will walk through the interactive installer that most will be familiar with from previous versions of Drupal and from the command line with Drush. Once we've installed a standard Drupal 8 site, we will cover the basics of extending Drupal. We will be installing contributed projects such as modules and themes. The section will wrap up with getting a local development environment configured. Now we move on to the first video of section 1. Installing Drupal. In this video, we will set up the files for Drupal 8 and go through the installation process. Just like most things, there are many different methods of downloading Drupal and installing it. In this video, we will focus on downloading Drupal from Drupal.org and setting it up on a basics Linux, Apache, MySQL, PHP LAMP server. So before we start, you're going to need a few prerequisites so that you meet the system requirements for Drupal 8. So to start off with, we need a web server, and in this case this can be Apache 2 or Nginx 1.1. Higher is fine. Same with PHP, we're looking at 5.5, but if you're using higher, that's okay. And then for your database, either MySQL 5.5 or MariaDB 5.5, whichever your preference is. You'll need a user with privileges. You want to be able to create new databases or create new tables within a database that already exists. You're also going to want permissions on your server so that you can upload or move files around. Drupal might require some specific PHP configuration. Now, generally a default installation of PHP is absolutely fine, but if you go to the Drupal website, specifically requirements/PHP, you can find some more up-to-date information on this. So we're going to be downloading Drupal 8 and placing our files in the web server's document root. Now, generally this is /var/www, but if you're using a different tool, please consult whatever documentation you're using so you know where you're putting these files. The public folder is what you're looking for. So we need to follow some pretty simple steps to install Drupal 8. First, we need to go to Drupal.org and download the latest release. You can find, when you go to Drupal.org, you can just click around and find the most recent and recommended release that you're sort of happy with working with. Once you extract that archive, place your files into your web server's document root as a folder called Drupal 8. So now, based on what web server you're using, you're either going to visit localhost or another sort of domain that you've got set up. If you open your browser, visit your web server, and then go to /Drupal 8, you'll be taken to the Drupal installation wizard. Now, you'll land on a sort of multilingual options screen to start with. So all you need to do is select your language and then click Save and Continue. On the next screen, try to keep the default standard option for the installation profile. This will provide us with a standard configuration with the most commonly used modules installed, which we'll be working through in this course. The next step will verify your system requirements. If your system does not have any reportable issues, the screen will be skipped, so you should be okay. So now you'll get to the sort of setup database option when you're setting up Drupal. Here you've got to enter the database information you're already set up. In most cases, you only need to supply the username, password, and database name, and leave the other defaults as they are. If your database does not exist, the installer will attempt to create one. So now your Drupal 8 site will begin installing. When it's done installing these base modules, you'll be taken to a site configuration screen. Now, the configure site form provides the base configuration for your Drupal site. So we want to enter our website name and our email address. Now, the site email will be used to send administrative notifications and as the originating email for outgoing emails from your website. So now that we're filling in the site maintenance account information, also known as user 1, this acts as a similar way to how root user accounts work on Unix-based systems. The site maintenance account is crucial. It acts as the first user and resembles that, anything with root permissions is pretty important. In Drupal, the user with a user ID of 1 can bypass permission checks and has global access to everything, so you really need to be careful with it. We also want to enter our site's regional information and whether the site should check for updates available for modules enabled and for Drupal itself. Checking for updates automatically means that your site will report anonymous usage statistics to Drupal, along with providing a summary of your version status. You also have the option to opt in for the site to email you notifications of new releases, including security releases, which is quite important. Creating a database user and a database. In order to install Drupal, you will need to have access to a database server in an existing database, or the ability to create new tables within an existing database. This process will depend on your server environment. It is variable. If you're working with a web hosting provider, there's more than likely a web-based control panel that allows you to create databases and users, so I'd refer to that hosting provider's documentation. If you're using Php Myadmin, which is typically installed by sort of out-of-the-box stacks, and have root access, you can create your databases and users directly. So if we sign into Php Myadmin as the root user, and then click Add a new user from the bottom of the privileges page, we'll fill in this user's information, and now we'll select it to create a database for the user with all of the privileges granted. So we can now use that user's information to connect Drupal to our database. If you don't have a user interface, but have command line access, you can set up your database and the user itself using the MySQL command line. These instructions can be found in the core sort of directory of your sort of Drupal installation under install.mysql.txt. Downloading and installing with Drush. You may also install Drupal using the PHP command line tool Drush. Drush is a command line tool created by the Drupal community and must be installed. The pm download command will download packages from Drupal. The site install command will allow you to specify an installation profile and other options for installing a Drupal site. The installation steps in this video could be run through Drush in the same way that we've done other command line arguments. We use Drush to download the latest Drupal 8 and place it in a folder named Drupal 8. Then the site install command instructs Drush to use the standard installation profile, configure the maintenance account, and provides a database URI string so that Drupal can connect to its database. If you choose to disable the update options, you will have to check manually for module upgrades. While most upgrades are for bug fixes or features, there are some for security updates. It's highly recommended that you subscribe to the Drupal security team's updates. These updates are available on Twitter, @DrupalSecurity, or on the feed at Drupal website itself, drupal.org/security. You can refer to the Drupal handbook on installing Drupal as well if you need some help, and also some additional sort of resources from drushcommands.com. So great, we've successfully learned how to install Drupal. In the next video, we'll see how to install modules and themes.